Hello, and welcome back to Walk to Cinema podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Eyes Without a Face.
So this is the next movie in our kind of chronological order of horror movies. It's a French film that's basically about this surgeon who is trying to successfully face transplant his daughter because her face was horrifically disfigured, I guess, in a car accident. And it's kind of this like mad scientist type of, story.
Yeah, at its core is this simplistic story, which is basically that. It's a mad scientist doing everything to reconstruct his daughter's face.
Yeah, and it's not unlike something such as Frankenstein, kind of, or anything that's a scientist trying to experiment, and he takes it to a point where he's causing more harm than good. He's murdering young women.
Yeah.
And taking their face to try and save his daughter's face.
Right.
And I think it stems from like him feeling like he is the one that caused his daughter to be disfigured, because she was disfigured in a car accident where the only part of her face that survived essentially was her eyes. Everything else is pretty much like gone.
As the title says.
Yeah. And he just is trying his hardest to make it so she's beautiful again, or that she doesn't have to hide her face when she walks by mirrors or reflective surfaces or anything like that.
Right. It's not like an incredibly original story at its core, but it is like done in a way that feels new and different. And I think that's why it ended up becoming so influential pretty much immediately.
Yeah, I'd say it's influential, but it wasn't well received until more recent times.
But like this came out in 1960, but like At the Mage Vampire came out a year after, and it was directly influenced by this. So even if it wasn't well received, I think people saw that this was somewhat different, like somewhat of a new vision, even if it is like an old tale of the mad scientist.
Yeah.
The faceless elements to this are pretty unique, pretty striking. Really, like, as soon as you see her face, because they hide it for a little bit.
With the mask and all that.
No, even the mask, like, they hide it for a little bit, then she turns around, she has the mask, and it's like, whoa, like, this, like, it's creepy. Like, she looks creepy, even though she's not. She's a regular girl. She had a fiance. She, just got unlucky. But the mask immediately makes her look just so creepy. And
unsettling.
And the first time we see her face, her actual, like, mangled face, she didn't do anything to this woman that she shows her face to, but the woman's reaction is panic, fear. Part of it is probably because she got kidnapped, but
yeah.
Other part of it is because she saw a face that scares her, even though the girl's not scary at all.
Right. Yeah, she has to live this life of, like, she is, like, a monster to people,
Which is why she loves the dogs that her father keeps for his experiments.
Yeah.
But she loves them because they don't know.
Yeah, they're not afraid of her.
Yeah.
But essentially, as it opens with this woman and she's driving and she throws a body outside of the car. She like dumps it in a river or like a pond or whatever. And then we kind of cut to being introduced to the doctor character.
Right.
And we find out that his daughter was missing, and he goes down to the morgue to identify the body. He says it's her. Turns out it's not her.
It's not. It's the daughter of the man that was waiting outside. And whose daughter was also missing. But that's his actual daughter.
Yeah.
That the doctor and his helper killed.
In order to take her face.
Not only take her face, but also play her as the missing daughter of the doctor.
Yes. And so it's this very twisted sense of he thinks he's doing it. Well, I don't even know if he thinks he's doing a good deed. But he's he's trying his best to fix his mistake, I
Yeah.
guess, with his daughter, but then also she does mention that she thinks it's more like his pride of trying to fix her face.
I think that's the story. It's his struggle with, am I doing this because I love my daughter, or am I doing this because I want to solve my mistakes and feel better about myself? It is such a dark film, but not in a like super traditional horror sense.
Right.
It's like a tragic tale. It's really dark. It's pretty straightforward in that sense, but it's so just human that it's scary. Because you feel what he's feeling, you know why he's doing it, even if, you know, he himself is not sure, or like his daughter is not sure, but you know why he's doing it, even if it's like this emotion you can't put into words because there's just so many things coming together.
Yeah. No, it's definitely like a unsettling story, but I will say that it's a little bit bland in my opinion at times.
Yeah.
Which I don't necessarily get why it's so like well received now. I understand why it would be influential, or like why people would be like, "Oh, watch this," and then be like, "Oh, I can make something better," you know? Like I can see that. And I think
people have.
Yeah.
This influenced directly The Skin I Live In by Pedro Almodovar, which I think is brilliant, and it's better, in my opinion. It also influenced
like the Halloween franchise, like...
Well, it influenced the Halloween franchise because of the mask.
Yeah.
But not directly the story.
Right.
But this has also influenced John Woo's Face Off with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage, which I also love. It's probably technically not a better film, but I prefer it.
Yeah. And there's like movies that like, it doesn't say that there's a direct link to it, but I feel like has a similar vibe. Like, there's this Japanese film called
The Face of Another.
The Face of Another, yes. The Face of Another, which is kind of similar, where it
is a better film.
It's a mask, yeah, it is. It's a mask, but he's starting to exhibit the behaviors of like this new person whose this face is like modeled after, but he's not killing subjects to take their face. He's just kind of experimenting with it. But it's the same kind of concept, mad scientist type thing, and
I think
experimenting.
The most important takeaway from this is not even that it's a mad scientist. I think it's the mask. It's the featureless mask that makes it so scary coming out of it.
Right.
Because they use similar things in The Skin I Live In. They use like a featureless body singlet. And the Halloween influence, it's a mask that doesn't really have too many features, but it's clearly a human shape.
But it's not like there's no movement to the mask.
Right.
That's the thing that I think makes it creepy, because it kind of teeters on the uncanny valley type thing, where she's wearing the mask and it has all the features of a human, but the only things that move or have any type of like dynamicness to it is her eyes.
Yeah.
And, you know, that can be very, very creepy. But I will say that the poster, I've always seen the poster. It's like very memorable to me, at least. But the poster seems like it's a scarier movie than it actually is, in my opinion.
But I think that's marketing that has nothing to do with the director's vision.
For sure, but like just something that I, took notice of.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes posters stick and you see them. I think we talked about, like, when we talk about Stalker.
Yeah. That
the poster looked a certain way and it always stuck out.
Yeah.
This is definitely not like a super scary horror movie or anything like that. It is like slow, methodical. There's a killer, but it doesn't feel like a threat.
Yeah. I wonder, I just had a thought, because it's the one other thing that kind of makes this at least scary or creepy is the fact that they do show kind of the whole process of cutting off the women's faces.
Yeah.
That's kind of body horror-ish. And I know a lot of like French movies nowadays, like there is like a scene of body horror in itself.
Yeah,
and I wonder if this was like a start for French movies, like having
the wave of horror movies now.
Yeah.
Does have body horror influences.
Yeah.
Of course, Julia Ducournau.
Yeah.
Very much into it, but this at the time was shocking.
Yeah.
Now I don't think it is. You were kind of like queasy.
Well, I don't know, because I mean, since I'm like kind of in a medical field, like I can view things in a medical sense. However, it's like not something that you like want to do in enjoyment. I don't know, because it's different when you're like watching it as like that's not the mindset that you're going into, right?
Right.
Like, when you're dealing with that in real life, you kind of understand that this is the setting that I'm in, but like when you're watching it on TV, I don't know, it kind of does give me like a little bit of queasiness, like the act of cutting into her face and the blood dripping and like
I thought the like the segment where they show the face transplant post-op as it's like not
decaying.
taking. Yeah, it's decaying in parts. I think that's grosser looking.
I disagree. I feel like there are I don't like surgical horror. Like that freaks me out a little bit. But I also remember saying that when we were watching this, when they show the little like area that he takes the victims and like operates on him, like that would be my worst nightmares, like waking up and finding myself in a tiled
Yeah, a lot
room.
of movies have played into that because it's legitimately scary.
Yeah.
Waking up and you're just in a sterile environment where you don't know where you are.
With like metal sharp instruments and you know.
The room kind of reminds me of the room from Human Centipede. And that's probably your worst nightmare film.
Right.
Just surgical body horror.
Yeah. But, you know, with this, it's not super intense and there's not very many scenes, but that scene that they do show is kind of long. And I could definitely see in the 1960s that, like, this would be something that was shocking and new, you know? Because, I mean, if you think about it, Psycho came out. We covered Psycho last year. And that also came out in 1960. And the new thing was, like, showing a woman in a bathroom, like in the shower.
Yeah,
you know?
That's crazy.
And seeing, like, a flushing toilet. Like, all of those things were new. But then at the same time, this was also happening where they were showing, like, you know, kind of graphic procedures, you know?
Yeah, and as it with a lot of people that try new things, they don't get received well.
Yeah.
And this is that. But in this case, I kind of understand it. Like, I see the whole spectrum of this.
Right.
I understand why people think this is the best movie ever, and I would understand why people think it sucks. I'm not in the middle. I'm leaning more towards I really like it. Because I do really like it, but I also could see why someone wouldn't. I think there's a lot of drawn-out scene. Like, it begins with a drawn-out scene. But I think it builds a mood that it maintains.
It does. I do think that the beginning scene does kind of maintain a level of, like, confusion and mystery.
Yeah, you don't know who this girl is.
Yeah.
You don't know why she's being dumped into the water. You don't know the relationship between the woman driving the car, the girl dumped in the water, and then when it cuts to
the doctor.
Yeah. So it builds a mood for me. But yeah, there's scenes that go on for a long time, and I can see why that would bore some.
And I mean, the movie isn't that long to begin with, so I think that when you're drawing out the scenes, sometimes that can be boring, I guess. Because if you're watching, it's less than 90 minutes, I think. And so when you have a scene that kind of lasts for 15 minutes, that does take up a very large chunk of your movie, and it stops it from progressing.
Yeah, and besides the pace, it's not like it's a super heavy story. It's thin.
It's very thin. And like even the idea behind like the investigation going on to try and find all these missing women is also very thin. Where it's like the officers are trying to piece together stuff, and then there's like a woman thrown in that she's getting arrested for something else, and they're like, oh, we'll help you if you pretend to be sick or whatever.
Definitely my least favorite part is the police interaction, which I'm gonna bring up. I did not think I was gonna bring up Human Centipede multiple times, but I think because there's a cop segment in it, but the cops kind of just show up and like you understand that they did investigations, whatever.
Right.
I think this would have worked here fine. Like, we don't need to see the cops. That's not why we're here. That's not the attraction of the film.
Right.
It's the relationship between father and daughter. Mm-hmm. It's the daughter embracing what's happened to her. It's the father trying to save everything he's done wrong. And the cops are somewhat unnecessary for the progression of the story.
Yeah, I think you could 100% like get rid of all of that and be roughly the same film. And there's like, because there's really the police involvement really has no outcome on like how the movie plays out, you know, because it's not the police that stop the last girl from being murdered and her face being taken. It's the daughter.
Yeah,
it's her being like, I feel guilty for taking away this girl's life or this girl's beauty. I'm gonna release her. She's gonna release the dogs, you know? Like, and then it has her walking out into the woods with the freed doves, you know? It's like she's accepted that things are what they are and that, you know, she's just gonna have to live, you know?
Yeah, she breaks free from what's happening. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a better life for her to have a deformed face and be free than it is to stay at home with a new face.
Yeah, stay at home with a new face and constantly, you know, having it fail over and over again. Like, that's, you know, the staying at home with a new face is
pointless.
Yeah, pointless.
She also realizes that her fiance, not in the picture anymore, he thinks she's dead.
Yeah, but I kind of like wonder, not that it would matter to the story at all, but like if he left her because of her face, it doesn't make it seem like it. Like, it seems like he would have been fine with her face being deformed or whatever, you know? Like, it didn't seem like he had, you know, completely abandoned her, you know? So it would just be interesting to see like why like her dad decided to kind of lock her away and make people think she died, you know?
Her dad is just
I think
crazy,
he's
crazy
selfish.
Man.
I think he's selfish. I think that he does have this level of like pride, I guess, for lack of a better word, in him that's like, I should be able to do this. And I feel like the descriptions that I've read is that he's a plastic surgeon, but like we see in the hospital scenes that he's not really dealing with plastic surgery all that much. He's just like
surgery.
It's just, yeah, he's just like a doctor that does things. But I mean, I don't know. It's one of the, but he does also mention that like the woman that works for him, he fixed her face with success, and you know, it's like, oh well, you didn't start from nothing. You may have like had some bustedness, but you didn't completely not have a face, you know? I don't know. There's like I think there's a lot of things that like this movie leaves unanswered. And, you know, that's fine for a movie, but I feel like with what it was trying to do and what it was like, you know, the point of it is not, I don't feel like the point of this movie is to leave you with a lot of questions or a lot of unanswered things. You know what I mean?
Not necessarily, but the point is also, I think the father-daughter relationship, and not really details outside of that. Mm-hmm. I think it's more concerned about the tragic doctor and you know what happens to the daughter than it is about being too tidy outside of that and like solving all the dead ends.
Yeah, I think the father-daughter relationship is kind of like, you think that at first you kind of think that the dad is like caring for his daughter, but as the movie progresses you kind of see that he's making all the wrong decisions for her, where like, you know, even though she's expressed that she doesn't want to continue with like the face transplants, he's kind of like, I'm gonna do it until I succeed, even though she keeps getting like false senses of hope and, you know, is starting to feel guilty and all this other stuff, to a point where like when she releases the dogs, they attack him and kill him, and she feels kind of nothing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's not, at that point, it feels like she doesn't even believe that that's her dad anymore. You know, it's like that's not the man who loves her as a father. That's just someone who was using her to further his, like, ego.
Yeah, she probably feels like the girls that died.
Yeah.
For her. Because she's like, I don't know if I want the girls to die anymore. And is like, yes, you do. So she becomes just another girl that he's forcing to do things.
Yeah.
But, as you said earlier, I think overall this story has been done better.
Yeah.
But you can't dismiss the influence of this one to those. And I still really like this one. It's very flawed. And I understand why it wasn't received well to begin with. I do think pretty much the widespread praise it gets, I mean, it's fine because people like it. Mm-hmm. But I would think more people wouldn't like it.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I agree, because if you look at, like, the scores of, like, how well it's received, it's pretty high.
Yeah, it's hard to find something too negative about it.
Yeah, and I mean, I totally agree that there's not that much negative with it in terms of, like, movie making and you know, just overall story. It's just a little bland for me. I don't know. Yeah. It's not something that I, like, particularly loved, but I do like the fact that it's in black and white, because I think that it would look way too jarring if it wasn't.
The mask looks perfect in black and white.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like a big part of selling the film is the mask that's in the poster. It's the eyes without a face name is kind of part of that mask situation, because you just see the eyes moving. So the mask is important, and the mask wouldn't look as good in color, I don't think.
I would agree. But I gave this movie a 6 out of 10. I think it's kind of... It's not that I don't like it. It's just not something that super impressed me, you know? I can, like, understand how influential it is and all that, but, I mean, overall, I just felt like it lacked something to me. Like, it lacked a little bit of, I don't know, pizzazz, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I give it an 8. Probably closer to a 7. Might be a 7 on, like, a further watch. It's good. It's well done. It looks scary. Mm-hmm. And it's unsettling. Yeah. But there's flaws, and the story has been done better. The movies it influenced, especially The Skin I Live In, I think I'm always going to go back to that one as being great.
Right.
Near perfect. And this is not near perfect. Mm-hmm. But it's still really good. It's still worth a watch. It's easy, simple, fast, but well done, and it's the career height for everyone involved in it.
Yeah. But I think that is all that we have to say about this movie. So don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a comment, rate us if you can, and we will see you next time.